Hello, brothers, sisters, friends, and family. A happy Sunday to you all. I want to share with you from 2 Kings chapter 7. The people of Samaria were under siege and experiencing a severe famine. The famine was so severe, such that some of the people turned to cannibalism. Some women were eating their children just to survive. Prophet Elijah gave a prophecy that there will be food the next day at the gate of Samaria, and it will be sold at a cheap price. An officer to the king doubted the prophecy Elisha gave because he didn't see how it would be possible due to the current situation of Samaria. The prophecy fulfilled, but the way and manner the prophecy fulfilled was something no one would have been able to predict. And 4 leopards played a role in the fulfillment of the prophecy. You may want to ask, how did the prophecy fulfill? And what role did the leopards play? When you read verse 4, it says, "And there were 4 leprous men at the entry in of the gate." I'm reading the King James version. Sometimes it's kind of difficult reading it. "And they said one to another, Why sit we here until we die?" Why were the 4 leopards sitting? Why were they sitting at the gate? In Bible times, people with leprosy were regarded as unclean and were not allowed inside the camp in the company of other people. They lived outside the camp or city. These 4 leopards were saying, "We shall die there. And if we..." Sorry, my signal went out. Lord Jesus, take control. I was reading verse 4 of 2 Kings 7. "If we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit still here, we die also. Now therefore come and let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die." Now these 4 leopards took a step that many would not have taken. They decided to surrender to the Syrians. Who were the Syrians? The Syrians were the ones who put the people of Samaria under siege, and it was the siege that led to the famine. The 4 leopards knew that if they remained where they were or go into the city, they would die of hunger, and so they decided to fall into the hands of the Syrian. They were expecting to either be killed or spared when they surrendered to the Syrians. And within themselves, I believe they would have said, at least, if we are spared, we will have something to eat. If we go into the city, we only have one fate, death. If we stay here, we only have one fate, death. If we go into the camp of the Syrians, we have 2 fates. Either they kill us, or they keep us alive. And if they keep us alive, certainly they will find something to eat, even if it's just the crumbs, Now, we are made to know in verse 5 that when the 4 leopards came into the camp of the Syrians, they found no man in the camp. I'm going somewhere. Follow me closely. What happened? When you read verse 6 to 7 of 2 Kings 7, it says, "For the Lord caused the army of the Syrians to hear the noise of chariots and the noise of horses, the noise of a great army. So they said to one another, Look, the king of Israel has hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to attack us. Therefore they arose and fled at twilight and left the camp intact, their tents, their horses, and their donkeys, and they fled for their lives." Wow. Wow. You never know what God can do through those you see as unclean or outcast. Follow closely. God made the footsteps of the 4 outcasts to sound to the hearing of the Syrian army like the sound of chariots and horses and a great host. Now the 4 leopards didn't know about the prophecy that was given. If they had known about it, maybe they would not have left the city gate, right? Though they didn't know about the prophecy, God used them to fulfill it. When the 4 leopards came into the uttermost part of the camp, they ate, they drank, they carried gold, silver, and other things. Now let's read verse 9. Then they said to one another, we are not doing right. This is the day of a good news. And we remain silent. If we wait until morning light, some punishment will come upon us. Now therefore come, let us go and tell the king's household. Now the 4 lepers decided to go share the good news to the people of Samaria. What good news? I will say God's abundant provision in time of famine. The people of Samaria plundered the camp of the Syrians, and as the prophet prophesied, so it was. Food was available the next day and sold for a cheap price at the gate of Samaria. This is what I want you to see. Now here comes the written. Never be too quick to write off or give up on people, especially those you see as rejects, unclean, or outcasts. God used 4 outcasts, 4 lepers, 4 men seen as unclean, 4 men who were not allowed in the camp because they had leprosy, because they were seen as unclean. God used 4 outcasts to put the Syrian army to flight. God used the 4 outcasts to end the siege and the famine in Samaria. God used 4 outcasts to declare the good news to the people of Samaria about his abundant provision in time of famine. God used 4 outcasts to fulfill prophecy. I want to say this. God isn't done with the rejects. God isn't done with the unclean. God isn't done with the outcast. See, the enemy and his cohorts may think they have won. People may have given up and said, this guy, it's over for this lady. You're long gone. You're lost. But guess what? God isn't done with them, and God alone has the final say. I don't know who is watching this. You may have a child, sister, brother, parent, or friend who is currently an outcast, but I want you to know this. God isn't done with them. God hasn't given up on them. And if you must know, they are part of God's kingdom agenda. You never know what God can do through those you see as rejects, unclean, and outcast. A few days ago, the Holy Spirit spoke a word to a friend of mine, and it was so powerful, she had to turn dinner off and share it with me. She was in the kitchen cooking chili, and she took over, and she looked over at a pile of rags that she had torn up from an old ragged t-shirt that was on its way to the garbage. That t-shirt was on its way to the garbage, but she decided to use it for something good instead. She cut it and tore it until he didn't recognize what it used to be. And then under her hand, she could use those rags that no one else seemed to want and clean her kitchen floor with them. She could use those rags to take a filthy kitchen floor covered in stains and dirt, and with those same rags, she could make the kitchen floor snow white and just like new. Just as my friend did with those rags, so also God can do with you. So also God can do with the outcasts. God can take people that the world considers throwaways, lost, useless, outcast, and he can change them and use them for his glory. In this season, God will use those you see as outcasts to put the enemy and his cohorts to flight. God will use those you see as rejects to declare and share the good news. God will use those you see as unclean to fulfill prophecy. Some time ago, I felt unfit to be used by God due to my mess. But the Lord said to me, your mess is not bigger than my mercy. I will use your mess to communicate a message about my mercy and my saving power. God's mess God's mercy, is bigger than your mess. Majority of the people today in ministry were once prostitutes, killers, criminals, drug addicts, rapists, homosexuals, and gang members. Seeing them yesterday, you would have said, it's all over for you. It's all over for you. But God took them, saved them, transformed them, raised them up, and is using them as his mouthpiece today. God has not gone out of business. He is still in the business of saving and transforming lives and using them for his glory. I'm going to end with this. Do you have a child or a family member or a friend who is currently lost, addicted in the world, living, going astray? Many may have given up on them, but I want you to do me a favor. Go on your knees and say it loud and clear to the hearing of all creators. Do you have a child, a teenager, who is walking on the wrong path? It's as if all hope are lost. Go on your knees and say with a loud voice, God isn't done with you. God isn't done with you. God has a plan for you. God will use you to put the enemy and his cahoots to flight. God will use you to deliver those the enemy has under siege. God will use you to declare the good news. God will use you to fulfill prophecy. This is just what I wanted to share with you guys. What the Lord enabled me to see from the story of the 4 leopards. And I just pray it blesses you. So I encourage you. Don't give up on those regarded as outcasts. God still has a plan for their lives. God isn't done with them. You never know what God can do with those you see as outcasts. Do me a favor by sharing this video and have a wonderful day. Keep praying. God isn't done with you yet. Bye.